Redhu experience.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Naina Redhu experience. It's a Wednesday morning, so good morning. Hope you're having a nice day already. If you're listening to this in the evening, then well, good evening. I am shifting my focus today from talking about how to make it work for bloggers. So far most of my podcasts have been about what bloggers can do to get work, the kind of stories they should do, how they can probably negotiate with brands, clients, and PR. From this episode onwards, I am starting a series called Influencer Marketing for Brands. This is part one, and I want to focus more on how a brand can work with an influencer and the things they should probably consider before they even think about getting to the stage of doing an influencer marketing campaign. Okay. Now, I'm not presuming to be an expert because I am not, but I have been doing this for a while and I get a lot of requests from brands, especially small to medium scale businesses in India or solo entrepreneurs who want to engage with influencers, but they've never done it in the past and don't know where to start. So this series can be beneficial to brands that have never worked with influencers, but maybe there's a little something in there for everyone, including bloggers, because unless the influencers and bloggers themselves understand what are the pain points that a brand has, for example, they will not be able to deliver what is valuable to the brand. So similarly, if a brand doesn't understand what it takes to be an influencer or a blogger or how it works, then the two sides cannot really come together in a relationship that would be mutually beneficial to both. So I think there is value in influencers speaking with brands and understanding what the pain points for a brand are. Similarly, it is nice if brands try to understand from the influencer's perspective how they do what they do, how it can be beneficial, etc. In part one, I wanted to talk about what you should consider even before you get to the stage of, say, hiring an influencer. So as a brand, I have a bit of a note card here because I wouldn't remember otherwise. I thought about this. I did a bit of research on Google. I read what a lot of people have shared online, and I wasn't able to find a piece that addresses specific things that a brand should do or must do or would be advantageous to do before they reach out to an influencer. And then if they do reach out to the influencer, what would work best? And then post the gig with the influencer, what are the things that they should do? So it's kind of going to be divided into three parts: things to consider before you approach an influencer, things to consider about the influencer, and things to consider once you're on the campaign and post the campaign. So part one is that if you're a brand yourself and you are thinking of engaging with influencers, what are the things you should consider? The first thing is that you should have a brand. You need to have, at the very least, you need to have a brand name. Ideally, this should be unique. You should have the trademark. You should have the .com, so that you should have the handle on all social media networks, regardless of whether they're relevant to your brand or not. It is better to reserve the name of the brand on those platforms instead of not have it at all. So having the brand itself is important. You definitely need a brand name. I would recommend that you also have a logo, some form of printed marketing material, a website, a page which says or describes what it is that you do. If you sell products or services, then maybe an online store that also sells those products and services, because these all serve as reference points for an influencer or for a potential customer to come and check you out. If you haven't decided what your brand's going to be called, I don't think it is the right time for you to be engaging an influencer or even thinking about it. Because it's marketing. Influencer marketing is marketing. If you don't have a brand to market, what are you going to market? This is very important. I would recommend doing the whole thing where you have a logo and you have a Obviously, the brand name, all kinds of domains that are relevant. A .com is great if you're able to manage that, which is why I would suggest that you get someone on board to help you with the brand name. It is not as simple as asking your Facebook friends list for recommendations on what you should be calling your business. I think that's a very bad idea. I have seen people doing that. I don't think they get good brand names out of that. You'll get a lot of suggestions because people will try to be helpful. But whether it is relevant or not to your brand, is it unique enough? Is there a database that you can check against whether it is available on all the networks? You need to do these checks. I would recommend that you hire an expert to do this. I have done this in the past myself. I have helped brands come up with brand names, and it's a lot of work. Obviously, you'll need to spend some money to do this, especially if you want a brand name that lasts for a while. You can change your logo, but I would recommend sticking to the same brand name for as long as you can. Because if you change the brand name, then there is a huge problem of identification. People will not remember you. Changing a logo is still kind of easy. You still have the same brand name at least. And most of us communicate while talking in words, etc. So even if the logo is changed, we still can read the brand name under it and we can identify it. So hire someone to get you a good brand name. Hire someone to design a good logo for you. And a good logo meaning it needs to be identifiable, clear. Someone, your customers should be able to look at the logo and say, yes, that's the brand. Even when the brand name is not there, written there, they should be able to identify it. And possibly it should fit with the kind of industry you're in. So the kind of, typefaces that are required, the kind of colors that might work, the kind of shapes that might work, what might appeal to the customer base. Color theory comes in there. Please, if you have no background in these areas, hire someone who can help you with this. There are a lot of great graphic designers and illustrators and brand designers in India who share their work online. You can search for them. You can look for recommendations and referrals. Hire someone to do this for you. Similarly, you will then need marketing material, which I'm not saying you need a brochure, but you do need, for example, if you're selling products, you need those products to be photographed a certain way. If you have to put them on your online store, even if you don't have a store, you have a website describing what your products are. Tomorrow, if you're going to be doing PR, you need images of your founder, so you need a good portrait photograph. You need photographs of the product. You need, hopefully, maybe even a lifestyle shoot that you might have had done for your products. You need to think of these things because all these materials will come in handy when you reach out to any kind of influencer. For them to be able to talk about you, the best way to engage with them and explain to them what it is you do is that you need a solid brand. It needs to be a brand that the influencer will take a look at and be like, this looks interesting. They've done everything so professionally. And it comes across that they are serious about their brand and I want to work with them. So many times brands reach out to me on email and there is a link to their website and the website is trash. It doesn't instill confidence. What I have always said, even when I was a brand designer and I was designing logos, I don't design logos anymore, so please don't reach out to me for that. I'm really sorry. I can recommend a friend of mine who does some really great work. But what I was saying was that it's not, obviously the prerequisite before everything else is that you need to have a quality product and service. If your product or service is not up to the mark in terms of the quality it delivers, or if your customers are not satisfied, reaching out to an influencer to promote your brand isn't going to work. In most cases, the influencer might take on your project because of the money, which I don't think is the right approach. But I understand that there are people, we sometimes do that. But key influencers might look at your product and they might not find a brand fit between their brand and your brand, purely based on the quality of the products that you make. This is especially, in my experience, true when it comes to fashion. So when I work with a fashion brand and they send me clothes, I first see the clothes. I clearly state in the email that I will not be able to commit to doing anything for them till I myself have personally experienced the quality of their clothes. So it goes without saying that you need the product or the service that you deliver to be up to the mark from the get-go. And then, of course, you need these branding materials which can further be used to help the influencer and the influencer's audience to get to know your brand better. Because when you're generating awareness for your brand, if there are no identifiers, what are people going to come back to? They need some kind of connection there and an identifier. When I meet you for the first time, I ask for your name so that I can remember your name. And next time when I meet you, I can greet you by that name. Or if someone is talking about you, I can identify and say that, oh yeah, I know that person, the person you're talking about. So it's like that. You to have recall value, to have identifiability, that when someone sees your logo, they're like, oh, that's the brand, I like it so much. And trust me, we love talking about brands. And I don't mean me as an influencer. Even as a customer, if you are doing good work, I will talk about your brand to my family, to my friends. I'll even talk about it online for free, even if you're not my client, because I want to share good products. I want my audience to trust in the kind of products I recommend. So if I don't have a brand name associated with it, or there's no good branding associated with it, but the product is great, I will still recommend it. But for maximum impact, when you reach out to influencers, a good branding, a good graphic design, good set of marketing materials, good quality paper, for example, these help in building your brand's credibility in the long run. It's like your visiting card. If you're giving it out to somebody, if it's a good quality card, people actually turn around and say, oh wow, this is a cool card if it's different, or this is really good quality paper, or even if it's simple but it has a good logo on it, then you're like, oh wow, this is so cool. And people remember that association. So simply amplifying that when you're working with an influencer. So if you don't have these materials, please first get this done. So that's what we started with for influencer marketing with brands. So if you are a smaller brand that doesn't have any logo right now, I would recommend you please work on this first. Get all your, the second part, in fact, in this is social media presence. Let me check my card. Yeah. Social media presence. The brand itself should have social media presence. Like I said, you need to be on all platforms, even if you don't end up using them. I think you should be using them because it is all digital now. It's not all digital, of course, but it is an important part of a brand's marketing strategy these days. Once you've decided that you have a brand name, the first thing, even before you finalize the brand name, if you have 2-3 options, you should first check where all they are available. They should be available. Any product or service, I think, needs a website for sure. So the .com should be available. Moving on from there, an identity on Twitter, for sure, a Twitter handle. I would also recommend an Instagram handle and a Facebook page. You definitely need these. Not because, your brand won't do well if you don't have them, but you're there. So if an influencer tags you on Facebook, for example, then because you have a Facebook page, the likelihood of the influencer's audience clicking on that link, coming to your page and saying, oh, hey, I want to like them because I want to keep track of their updates is much higher. In case you don't have a Facebook page, the influencer can link to your website, of course, and say that go to this website, this is the brand's website, these are the products. But then if you have a newsletter, maybe they can, stay updated. But I would still suggest a Facebook page instead of a newsletter, because a Facebook page is more opt-in. Newsletters are also opt-in, but people like me, for example, there's always this part of the audience that doesn't want a newsletter. So you'll have to see what works for you. I, as an influencer, even when I was doing branding, I've never had a newsletter, and I don't appreciate being forcefully subscribed to a newsletter without my permission. So a lot of times I will actually mark that newsletter as spam and unsubscribe from it at the same time. I am not interested. If I am interested in keeping up with your product, your company, or your brand, I will most probably follow you on social networks where you're the most active. So you need to decide which networks work for you, and then you need to be on those networks, simply because if I share a tweet on Twitter about a brand, I can tag the brand and my audience can go and follow that brand if they're interested in it. Same on Instagram, you get more likes, you get more fans, etc., etc. primarily all your stuff should be, of course, on the website, so that even when someone comes to your Twitter profile and they're curious about the website, they will click on the website and go and see more products, because the influencer is probably not going to be talking about all your products at the same time. On the same lines of the brand having a social media network, I would suggest that the brand manager also have personal social media handles of their own. If you are not on social media, if you have never posted a blog post, if you have never written a tweet, followed people on Twitter, if you have never used Instagram, if you have never used Facebook, if you have never made a selfie video and posted it somewhere, it is hard to explain to you what it is that an influencer does. It's even if you don't do it full time, I would highly recommend that you get handles now, right now, and spend a week, 10 days, follow influencers and see what they do. Post some of your own content, even engage with those influencers and say, hey, this is a nice story. We like the way you've done this. And post your own stuff and try to understand how it works. So many times, a lot of my friends, not friends really, family, when we're sitting together, I'll quickly make an update on the phone on the side and put it on the side. And a lot of times everyone's on the phone and I'm not on the phone. And still they're like, how do you post so many times a day? For an influencer, this is work. And it's not just a hobby that, oh, I want to post. I don't want to post for all I care. I leave it on the side. I just like doing my blog. But you will get a perspective and you will understand how the other party works. If you have never been on social media networks, the likelihood of you getting it is kind of low, and I'm being polite. So if you are looking to handle the brand, or if you are the on-point person at a brand who will be engaging with influencers or will be engaging with a PR agency that will be engaging with influencers on your behalf, you must have your own personal social media handles and you must use them for a while. It will also help you in the long run to engage with influencers better. You're able to leave a comment, you're able to retweet them, you're able to reshare their Instagram posts. You are able to create a connection there. You are able to engage with them even before you hire them and pay them money to work for your brand. So the three things that I have covered so far, one is that you obviously need a brand, good quality products, logo, etc. You need the brand's website, hopefully a blog as well, your very own blog. Trust me, customers want to know what is going on a daily, weekly basis. So maybe you don't need to post daily, but you could post weekly or you could post monthly updates. And then your own personal social media handles so that you can interact with influencers on a professional level, but personally. And imagine, if you work at a brand right now and tomorrow if you're going to move from that brand to the other, you've already established these relationships with these influencers. So when you're moving to another brand, you can actually take that to the table and maybe even negotiate your salary based on your relationships with influencers. And it'll be a loss to the brand that you're moving from, because if they haven't had their entire team actually have or build a relationship with influencers, then that relationship is based entirely on you. And if you move, those relationships move and they'll have to start from scratch. So I would suggest if you are a one-person company and if you have a small brand that you sell maybe 2 or 3 product variants, then you yourself must have a personal account. You can run it yourself under the brand's name and not have a personal account, which is fine, unless you're planning to then sell your brand eventually at some point, in which case brand names for sure, personal handles, at least mark them and keep them. You have to decide based on the kind of brand you have, whether you can post personal updates under your brand's handle. So because your audience will know that it's you, the person who is running the social media handle for the brand, or if you want to keep the two absolutely separate. As an influencer, my brand is personal and professional at the same time. I can't really divide the two because it's just me. There's no team. I deal with all clients, etc. So if you're a one-person brand, then you need to take a call between whether the brand name handles will be separate from yours, depending on if you have a product or service you're selling, or if you yourself are the product or service. So that is another thing that you need to consider. And I would suggest that if you have like a product, then you should probably keep your product social media updates separate from your personal social media updates. It is double the work for sure, but it creates a clear distinction between where customers must get in touch for any queries that they have related to your products or your brand, and what is totally your personal space and you are not supposed to be disturbed there. So I think you should do that. But depending again on what kind of product or service you're delivering, you must look at KhaosPhilos bags. Smriti Sen is the solo entrepreneur behind that. She has a team of artisans who actually help make her bags. But she does social media really, really well. You should check them out on Instagram. I have worked with them, so they have been my client, disclaimer. And I really do like Smriti as a person as well. But I find the way that she handles she has a separate Instagram handle for her brand, and she also has one for her personal page. And the kind of photographs that the brand uses, there's a language there. There's a brand language there. You can tell that, okay, this is KhaosPhilos. This has been shot by the brand. And if the brand works with an influencer, the photographs will be completely different. But if you look at those two photos, you'll be like, oh yeah, this one is from the brand. The language that they use on their website, the kind of photographs and visual imagery that they use, the logo that they have, the branding, the packaging, everything ties into the spirit of what the brand stands for. It makes it very easy then for an influencer to look at all these materials and get a mental picture of what the brand stands for. If you are a brand owner, whether a solo entrepreneur, a small or a medium or even a large brand, one of the struggles of branding is that you need a voice, an identifiable voice, something that speaks or screams, yes, that's the brand. That is what the brand stands for. This voice needs to be found before you get to the point of influencer marketing. Otherwise, you are wasting money. Because influencers charge money now. If you have to work with anyone who's half decent even and has some experience or has done client work in the past, you will be paying them. And it is getting more and more expensive to work with good quality influencers. The number of influencers in the market is increasing. So it is becoming a bigger investment to actually research and figure out which influencers you actually want to work with, who is going to be the most relevant for your brand, because there are just so many influencers in the market right now. Even the newer influencers who are coming in charge money because it is work. It's not the interpretation of what a blogger or an influencer does has changed. Brands are taking them more seriously. They're treating them as professionals. So even the younger, the smaller ones who come up will charge for their time and for their effort. So if you don't have something to sell and you're hiring an influencer, you're wasting money, basically. And of course, time, and it might not even work for your brand. It might misfire. You might end up working with the wrong influencer because they haven't been able to identify what kind of brand is this and whether they want to work with you or not. That was part 1 of influencer marketing for brands. These things that I spoke about today will naturally lead into part 2, where I intend to talk about the other factors you need to consider before working with an influencer or launching an influencer marketing campaign. I will be talking about what the campaign goal should be. So that you need to decide the campaign goal before you get to the point of reaching out to an influencer. So the whole brand and products and identity will flow into what kind of a campaign you want to do. And the campaign is for what? Are you trying to promote a product? Are you trying to promote a product launch? Are you trying to promote a team member who has just joined you? What are you trying to promote? So what is the goal of that particular campaign? What kind of campaign you would like to design, etc. This is what I plan, and a couple of other things I plan to talk about in part 2. Thank you for listening. If you are a brand and you want to know more about how you can engage with influencers if you have not engaged with influencers earlier, or you want to understand my perspective on how I've done it, I'm more than happy to respond to questions and emails on my podcast. I'm also available for hire as a consultant to help you out with your influencer marketing needs. And of course, I am an influencer myself, so I am always available for hire for photography and influencer gigs. Take a look at my blog. It's www.naina.co. Thank you for listening. Until next time. Bye bye.